And now, from the Spotty Dog Studio, deep in the heart of Texas, Chuck and Karen Robinson bring you...
What if it really works?
And Karen, who are we sitting next in front of this afternoon?
Well, our guest today is John Smotherman, and he has written what I consider to be an incredible book, The Consciousness Paradigm: Improving Your Happiness, Helping Yourself, and Healing the World. So we're going to talk to him today about his life and how he got here and how did he get to this. Welcome, John. We're happy to have you with us
Thank
today.
you. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
So, John, we as I mentioned, this is a conversation, but I think the place that I'd like to begin, and we've asked a number of people this question. It's not a trick question, but what is consciousness?
Well, very good question. I think there's levels of answer to that. At the most simple, obvious level, consciousness is awareness, just being simply aware. But I think we're at a stage of development now where it makes more sense to look at it as a dual layered response. And level number 2 is, okay, once you have that awareness, what do you do with it? How do you structure it? How do you use it? How do you deploy that to improve life, basically?
Mm-hmm. And you observe, and you're not only a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, but you're also an educator and you're teaching at the college level. Is that correct?
I have taught at the college level. I'm not presently, but I did teach at the college level, yes.
So you're involved with a pretty broad spectrum of people.
Yes.
How do we help people grow in their consciousness?
Well, I think the way that we do that, and if you get really, really down to the basics, step 1, basic Dale Carnegie, we have to explain to people how consciousness and utilizing consciousness positively can benefit them. They need to understand why they should care. I mean, most people have very busy lives. They've got a lot going on. And to say, well, there's one more thing you need to be worried about, I don't think we're going to get much traction until people begin to understand, raising consciousness is one of the most powerful ways we have of improving people's experience of life. So then people start to listen. And once that happens, then I think it is a matter of educating people as to exactly what consciousness is, how it interacts as it relates to their lives. And my experience has been once people understand the basic structure and mechanics of consciousness, the argument of as far as why it's important makes itself, and then they begin to they see the benefit in it, and then they begin to work on their own consciousness, and that opens the way. So that's kind of stage 1. Stage 2, what I have found is I've read in many, many different areas, and I've studied, and I've looked at psychology, religion, philosophy, physics, government, politics, sociology, many, many, many fields. And when I look back over history and I look at what the great teachers of humanity have taught us, I finally realize, every single one of them have devoted some amount of their teaching to how we use our mind. And there's certain aspects of mind or mind skills that keep coming up over and over and over again through human history as being really important levers for moving consciousness forward. And I think if we take those and we use them as sort of a roadmap, and then take what can be, many times very, very hard, but it's taking time out of the day to actually sit back, step out of the day, and reflect on the day and reflect on self. And I think all those put together brings together a program that will have a tendency to move consciousness forward. People will slow down long enough to actually take an assessment of themselves and their environment. A lot of times the variables make themselves pretty obvious.
But getting people to just slow down in this environment is kind of a big trip.
It's a big challenge.
Karen, you got some information about how he grew up and learned this stuff.
Yeah, share that with us. I mean, because you didn't just step into this as an adult.
Right.
Somehow, as a child, growing up in East Texas, you knew that things shouldn't be working the way they were working, and you wanted to figure out how to make it better.
Right.
Even when you were a teenager.
Right.
So share a little bit about that part of your story.
Well, all of this started for me when I was about 13. I began questioning a lot of things that I had been taught, a lot of ways that people described the world and the reality that we lived in. And I had a lot of questions that had no satisfactory answers. So I began to question, I began to look around the world, and I saw a lot of things that were very troubling to me. There were children that were starving all around the world. There were women who were getting beaten up by their husbands. There were children here that were being abandoned, neglected, rape, murder, all kinds of horrible things going on in the world. And I thought, surely there's got to be some way to make this better. And I got more and more frustrated with some of the things that I saw out there and some of the things that were going on, and my frustration built and built and built until I kind of woke up one day and I found myself in pretty deep depression. And
at what age?
This was about 13 going on to 14.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, it was a combination of many things, but the predominant thoughts I had on my mind was I'm really unhappy and in a lot of pain. How do I get out of it? I didn't really have anybody I could talk to about it. And there's a whole lot of problems in the world that seems like it ought not be this way. There should be some way to make it better. So I started reading, and that began a lifelong quest of reading voraciously and studying. And I began with religion and philosophy and moved on and on and on. So I was reading Plato and the Upanishads in high school for fun. And eventually, lucky enough for me, I got a hold of enough good reading material. I began to understand, what I'm doing with my mind is creating pain for me. I'm creating this myself by what I'm doing. I thought, let me try changing that. So I would change the way that I thought about something, and a certain aspect of my life would get better. And I would say, that's interesting. Let me try that again. So I would follow another suggestion of what I had read, and my mind would get better, and my world would get better as a result of that.